Okay, with everything that's going on, with all the protests going on all over America, I remember something. I remember a few years ago when President Trump told a group of police officers, I believe it was in Long Island, don't be too nice to suspects. So I did a little research and I went and found this article. So here it is. You can understand why we have a case like George Floyd out in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where the police can put his knee in a man's neck for over 8 minutes and kill him. You know, kill him. So luckily, we live in an age right now where we have like pocket phone cameras and so forth, surveillance cameras and so forth. That we saw the guy was Floyd was arrested, being carried peacefully, no resisting arrest, like the police said. Put in the official report. So yeah, so this is an example of the chickens coming home to roost. You do something, you plant the seed, and sooner or later it comes back to haunt you. And Trump to police, please don't be too nice to suspects. He made the comments during a speech to law enforcement officers today. And this article is by Megan Kennelly, July 28, 2017. So basically, this was like 6 months after he took office as president. Remember, he won in 2016, and he came in 2017, and he was addressing a group of police officers. I believe it was out in Long Island. See, President Donald Trump speaks at Suffolk Community College, July 28, 2017, in Brentwood, New York. Brentwood, New York is in Long Island. So that's Suffolk Community College. So that's Suffolk County. Okay. So this is 6 months into his presidency, and he's telling the cops he's rewarding behavior. When you have criminal suspects, don't even worry. So President Donald Trump seemed to encourage police to to be more violent in handling potential offenders during a speech to law enforcement officers today. Please don't be too nice, he said to the audience in Long Island, New York. While the speech was largely focused on the fight against the gang MS-13, it appeared that Trump was directing his comments about police interactions with suspected criminals in general, not just gang members, just suspect in general. Somebody like George Floyd, who wasn't resisting arrest as far as we can see, who wasn't even a violent criminal or anything like that, or a violent suspect. He described the precautions typically taken by police where they place a hand over a suspect's head while they are being put into a police car to protect them. When you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just seen them through. You just seen them throw in rough, I said. Please don't be too nice, he said. When you guys put somebody in a car and you're protecting their head, the way you put their hand over their head, Trump continued, mimicking the motion. Like, don't hit their head. And they've just killed somebody. Don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away. Okay? I have to tell you, the laws are so horrendously stacked against us. Because for years and years, they have been made to protect the criminal. Totally made to protect the criminal, not the officers. You do something wrong, you are in more jeopardy than they are, he added, which is really, really untrue. I mean, really. We know it's very, very hard to convict police officers, especially when they're in the line of duty, to get a case against them. Even if you go to grand jury and get an indictment and you go to trial, it's not that easy. If you remember the case with the police officer, I believe it was in North Charleston, South Carolina, some years ago, he shot that black man who was running away. The guy, I think he owed child payment or something like that. He didn't pay, and the cops stopped him for traffic infraction, something like a tail light wasn't on or something like that. Maybe when he pressed the brake light wasn't coming on or something, and he stepped in for that. And the guy owed money for child support, so he figured he was going to be arrested. I don't know. I guess maybe the laws down there is very different. You get arrested. So instead of complying, he decided to run. And he ran. As he's running, the cop chases him. The cop shoots him in the back. He at first tried to tase him, and he couldn't get him with the tase. So he pulled out his gun. He shot him in the back. Then he put the taser right next to the man's body. Right? He put the taser next to the dead man's body. And it so happened somebody was passing by with one of his phones, and he captured everything from the moment with the tussle with the cop and the time the man is running away. And this guy, he was going about his business, but he happens to witness this, and the cop didn't see him, but this guy saw what was happening. If it were not for him, nobody would know what went on there. And then he planted evidence. He put the taser right next to the man's body to make it look like he tried to grab it from the cop. Okay, and shot him in the back a number of times. And even though with that, when they did go to trial, they did get an indictment. But when they did go to trial, the jury was hung because at least one person in the jury, even though with all the evidence, shooting somebody in the back, which, by the way, the Supreme Court ruled against that. I believe there was a case in Tennessee where you can't shoot a fleeing suspect in the back who is not armed. If somebody's just running away from the police and they're not armed, they don't have a gun, they don't represent a threat, the police is not allowed to shoot them. Right? There is a case like that. I think it's Ghana versus Tennessee or something. I don't remember. I think it's Ghana versus Tennessee. Anyway, that case does exist. So that's illegal. A cop is not supposed to shoot a fleeing suspect who is unarmed. But oftentimes cops make up stories like, they see the guy was reaching for something or this or that or so, and it's up to the jury. In any case, even though the jury saw that and they saw the cop planted evidence, they still went ahead and hung the jury anyway. So this is why, regardless, this is why it's very hard to get justice in America at times with police shooting. And many times what happens, you have people who may be white supremacists. I wouldn't even say like regular racists, I wouldn't even use that word. I would say like maybe white supremacists, people who belong to the Ku Klux Klan and so forth. And they're able to find themselves in the juries where police are involved, police malfeasance. And they go there and they have no intention whatsoever to really hear the case and to deal with justice. No. And I think that's one of the reasons you keep having these things over and over and over. You see? You take the case with Philando Castillo out in Minneapolis, Minnesota, same place this stuff happened. The guy had a seatbelt on. He had a license to carry a gun. He told the police officer, right? Police officer said, "Don't reach for it." He was reaching for. He told him to get his license, and he told him, "Look, I have a license to have a gun. I'm carrying." And he shot him dead anyway. And the jury did not convict the cop. Yeah, he was fired. So this is why you're gonna see these things over and over and over. So this went to a jury, and yet the jury did not convict him. So he was able to walk. So he probably has another job, or maybe he's a policeman in some other place and so forth. The guy in North Charleston, South Carolina, yeah, he the jury was hung. However, the federal government came in and decided, well, they're going to prosecute him. And for some reason, I don't know, it seems though people are very fearful of the federal government. It's the same government that has the IRS that people are scared of. Like if somebody from India, an Indian scammer calls up and say, "I'm from the IRS, you owe money, send me a gift card," or what have you, people are scared. So people seem to have more fear of the federal government than of the state government. So if they go into a state court, a state criminal court, and they prejudice or they're white supremacists or whatever, they more feel, well, okay, you know what? I'm not really gonna mete out justice here. I don't really care. But if they step into federal court, then yeah, then they take it more seriously. Like this guy in New York, Volpe, who had stuck a broomstick up the rear end of the Haitian guy in Brooklyn here. The federal government took him to court, and he ended up getting something like 30 years. So that's kind of rare. But see, people are usually, and the reason I'm saying this is because the jury is able to come back with a guilty verdict. So it seems though in federal cases, the people who sit in the jury are much more likely to be serious about what they're doing and look for, a case, look for a condition whereby they would say, well, you know what, this is really serious. So instead of me, maybe if I'm a white supremacist or what have you, maybe I could be investigated later on by the federal government, because the federal government has this immense amount of resources. They can investigate people. So some people figure either up front you admit you're a white supremacist and you're gonna vote and get the cop off anyway. Just say that up front, and then you'll be excused from the trial. See, you do that, and that may work. So in the case of the guy in the cop in South Carolina, once he realized that the federal government was going to prosecute him, and he was looking, I think, like 30 years or something, he decided to plead guilty, and that was it. He didn't even go to trial. You see? So getting back to this. At one point during the speech, he seemingly praised the perceived toughness of U.S. immigration and customs enforcement officers. I can tell you, this is Trump speaking, I can tell you, I saw some photos where acting ICE director Tom Homan's guys, rough guys, they're rough. I don't want to say it because they'll say that's not politically correct. You're not allowed to have tough people doing this kind of work. Just like they don't want to have rich people at the head of Treasury, Trump said. The Suffolk County Police Department, the county in which Trump spoke, tweeted about its policy on handling prisoners, although it did not specifically cite the president. The SCPD has strict rules and procedures relating to the handling of prisoners. It tweeted following the president's speech. Violations of those rules are treated extremely seriously. A subsequent tweet read, as a department, we do not and will not tolerate roughing up of prisoners. And it's right there. The American Civil Liberties Union also responded, condemning the president's remarks. By encouraging police to dole out extra pain at will, the president is urging a kind of lawlessness that already imperils the health and lives of people of color at shameful rates. Jeffrey Robinson, Deputy Legal Director of American Civil Liberties Union and Director of the ACLU's Troan Center for Justice and Equality, said in a statement, innocent until proven guilty? Our president would rather not bother with that. Expanding the role of the police officer to include judge, jury, and executioner, he said. This country is wary of the type of policing that Trump espouses, having seen over and over again that it only makes it harder for police to investigate and solve crime, he said. This isn't the first time that Trump has seemingly condoned physicality. During a campaign stop in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, on the day of the Iowa caucuses, for instance, he told audience members he would pay their legal fees if they engage in violence against protesters. If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them. Would you? Seriously, okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees. I promise, he said on February 1st, 2016. At the Las Vegas rally later that month, he said security guards were too gentle with the protester. He's walking out with big high fives, smiling, laughing, Trump said. I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. A similar situation unfolded at a rally that month in Warren, Michigan. Get him out, he said of the protester. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. You see? So for those people who defend Trump, support Trump, especially black people in America who find themselves on the same side of the fence with Trump, defending him and and teaming up for his re-election and so forth. This is what you have, and I tell you one thing: even if you walk around with a sign saying, I support Trump, or you tattoo it on your forehead, that's not gonna protect you in America from people, from the type of cops that you see, that man who murdered George Floyd. That's not going to help you. As Trump said today, that MAGA, M-A-G-A, those people who wear the red hat, he said MAGA love the black Americans. They love the black people, whatever the hell that means. As if there are no black people who part of MAGA. I think I've seen some of them sitting behind him at the rallies, with the red hat, what have you. Blacks for Trump and this and so forth. Well, there you have it, folks. So this was back in July 28, 2017. Trump encouraged the police to be violent with suspects. No, please don't be too nice to suspects. Okay, so this is why we have cases like George Floyd. and Philando Castillo and all the other black people who were killed or who were murdered by cops, and nothing seems to happen because you have a president of the United States who's supporting violence against people, and especially violence against black people. That means if you're black in America and the police takes your life or what have you, that's just too bad. You know? That's just too bad. Go complain about crime in Chicago or so forth, like they usually deflect and say, complain about black people killing black people. Don't complain about cops killing black people. That's the message in America from the President of the United States. Okay? And that's not a good message. Unfortunately, this is where we are today. And that has to stop. And hopefully this coming November, people wake up, smell the coffee, and get this man out of office